Most RPGs tell you you're special from the start. Prophesized hero, chosen bloodline, destined savior. These games don't. You're nobody. There are no power fantasies here. Just survival, consequence, and the brutal realization that the world doesn't revolve around you. Let's go. You're mercenaries. That's the entire premise. No prophecy, no royal bloodline, just a ragtag group trying to earn enough gold to survive another week. War Tales treats you like hired muscle in a world that has actual problems bigger than your squad. The brilliance here is how it handles progression. Your company grows organically, recruiting new members, assigning roles, managing morale. But growth doesn't equal power fantasy. Bigger parties mean more mouths to feed, more wages to pay, and tougher fights because the game scales encounters based on your strength. I've had runs where recruiting too many members bankrupted the company because I couldn't afford their wages. Combat is turn-based tactical with real consequence. Injuries persist between battles, requiring rest and treatment. Permadeath is optional but encouraged, making every fight feel dangerous because losing veterans means losing their experience and specialized skills. The game tracks individual combat stats, so your archer who survived 50 battles genuinely becomes more valuable than fresh recruits. The world doesn't pause for you. Bandit camps respawn, villages get raided, and regional conflicts continue regardless of your involvement. You can influence outcomes through contracts, but you're never the central figure driving events. Sometimes the best choice is avoiding a fight you can't win because repair costs and medical treatment would exceed the contract payment. The profession system is what feels like they put a lot of time into. Members can become blacksmiths, cooks, thieves, miners, each providing passive benefits. Managing these roles alongside combat abilities creates strategy layers beyond just winning fights. This might be the most emotionally devastating anti-power fantasy on this list. You're Brad, a broken man trying to protect his adopted daughter in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where women have gone extinct. The entire world is violent, desperate men fighting over scraps. What makes Lisa brutal is how it forces sacrifice mechanically. The game presents choices where both options are terrible. Lose a party member permanently or sacrifice a limb, reducing your combat effectiveness for the entire playthrough. Watch someone you care about get tortured or give up items you desperately need. There are no good outcomes, only degrees of loss. Brad starts the game addicted to a drug called joy that temporarily numbs pain. The addiction is permanent. Go too long without joy and withdrawal kicks in, reducing combat stats and triggering hallucinations. The game never lets you forget that Brad is fundamentally damaged. Using substances to cope with trauma, he can't escape. Combat is turn-based RPG, but resources stay scarce and encounters are often unwinnable. Sometimes the correct choice is running, which feels cowardly but keeps your party alive. Permanent death means losing characters you've invested hours developing, and the game will kill them just to hurt you emotionally. The tone is relentlessly dark. Humor exists, but it's uncomfortable. Gallows humor from people with nothing left to lose. Where most RPGs offer power progression toward triumph, Lisa offers deterioration toward inevitable tragedy. You're not climbing toward victory, you're falling, and the game asks how much you'll sacrifice trying to slow the descent. The narrator tells you up front, you will fail. Your heroes will die, go insane, or abandon you. The dungeon isn't a challenge to overcome. It's a meat grinder designed to destroy everything you send into it. And you're the one feeding people into that grinder because the alternative is worse. What makes Darkest Dungeon an anti-power fantasy is how it treats heroes as resources, not individuals. They have names, quirks, backstories, but they're ultimately expendable. The affliction system means stress can break characters permanently, turning them into paranoid wrecks who sabotage missions. I've had veteran heroes reach the final dungeon only to suffer mental breaks that made them unusable. The progression is backward. Heroes don't become more powerful, they become more traumatized. Higher level dungeons inflict worse stress, deadlier diseases, and permanent debuffs called quirks that can ruin builds. You're not ascending toward godhood. You're managing deterioration, trying to keep your roster functional long enough to complete objectives. Permadeath is the core design. Lose a max-level hero, and all those hours of investment vanish. The game encourages you to accept losses and move forward rather than save scumming, which creates genuine tension during tough fights. Do you risk your best team, or send less valuable members knowing they'll probably die? Where it shows brilliance is in the estate management layer. Recruiting, upgrading facilities, treating diseases and mental afflictions. All cost gold you need for dungeon supplies. Every decision is a bind, choosing what you can afford to fix and what has to wait. This is classic RPG design, filtered through brutal post-apocalyptic survival. You're nobody living in underground metro stations after the surface became uninhabitable. No chosen one prophecy, no special destiny. Just try to survive in tunnels full of mutants, hostile factions, and other desperate humans. What makes Underrail punishing is how much it respects player intelligence while refusing to explain itself. The game drops you into the world with minimal tutorials, expecting you to figure out faction politics, crafting systems, and combat mechanics through experimentation. Build your character wrong, and you'll hit walls 20 hours in where progression becomes impossible without restarting. Combat is turn-based tactical with action point economy that rewards careful planning. Every decision, movement, attacks, item use, costs AP, and running out mid-turn leaves you vulnerable. Enemy AI is smart, using cover, grenades, and flanking tactics that punish sloppy positioning. I've had entire runs end because I entered a tunnel unprepared and couldn't escape. The character building offers insane depth. Stats, skills, feats, and gear all interact in complex ways. You can build stealthy psychic assassins, heavy armor tanks, crossbow specialists with trap mastery. Hundreds of combinations exist, but specialization is mandatory because spreading stats thin creates characters who can't handle late-game challenges. Where it shows no mercy is the difficulty. Encounters don't scale to your level. Wander into the wrong area and enemies will obliterate you. There's no quest compass, no obvious progression path, just exploration and consequences for poor choices. This game opens with you in debt. Your family home is getting repossessed in 5 days unless you pay what you owe. That's the hook. Not saving the world, just solving basic financial problems while trying not to freeze to death. You're not a hero in Outward. You're an adventurer who's genuinely bad at adventuring. Survival mechanics are harsh but fair. Hunger, thirst, sleep, temperature, all constantly demanding attention. Stamina doesn't regenerate in combat, so every fight requires planning. Backpacks slow your dodge roll, forcing choices between mobility and carrying capacity. Combat is deliberately punishing. No targeting lock-on exists, so every swing has to be aimed manually. Enemies hit hard, and dying doesn't end your run. It creates consequences. You might wake up in a bandit camp with your gear stolen, or get rescued by a traveler who carries you to the nearest town. The world keeps moving regardless. What separates this from typical survival games is how it supports different playstyles. You can focus on becoming a skilled mage, a survivalist warrior, or a traveling merchant. There's a main quest involving factions and supernatural threats, but I've ignored it for dozens of hours just exploring and establishing trade routes. The magic system requires genuine preparation. Spells demand specific components. Casting animations leave you vulnerable, and powerful magic requires building mana through meditation or consumables. You can't just spam fireballs. Resources matter too much. Where some struggle is the opening hours are intentionally difficult to teach you that carelessness kills. But once systems click, it becomes deeply rewarding. You're Henry, a blacksmith's son whose village gets burned to the ground in the opening hours. No magic saves you, and there's divine intervention. Your parents die, you barely escape, and the game makes it painfully clear. But just another peasant caught in a war you don't understand. What makes Kingdom Come special is how it treats you like an actual medieval commoner. You can't read at the start. Literacy was rare. You can't fight properly. Combat requires training and practice. Even basic survival demands managing hunger, sleep, and hygiene. Get into a fight unprepared and you'll die instantly because you're not a legendary warrior. You're a kid who watched his father work metal. The combat system is brutally realistic. Directional attacks, stamina management, weapon degradation, all tracked in real time. Armor actually works like armor, meaning a well-armored opponent can't be taken down with a rusty sword no matter how good you are. I've lost fights to single bandits because I got overconfident and forgot to eat, dropping my stamina regeneration. The historical authenticity is what seals it. No dragons, no magic, no chosen one prophecy. Just 15th century Bohemia recreated with obsessive detail. You can't become king. You'll never lead armies. You're Henry, and that's all you'll ever be, a competent fighter working for people more powerful than you. It shows commitment through the save system. You need to sleep in beds or drink savior schnapps to manually save, forcing you to live with mistakes instead of save scumming every failure. Icepick Lodge built this game specifically to make you feel powerless. You're a surgeon returning to your plague-ridden hometown, and the game makes one thing clear from the start. You've already lost. The tutorial shows you the ending. The town consumed by plague, purged by the government. You see defeat before understanding the controls. Then it drops you into 12 days of ruthless survival where every decision feels impossible. You have to eat, sleep, manage infection, trade for resources, treat plague victims, and protect specific characters who will die if you fail. The clock never stops. What makes Pathologic 2 brutal is how it forces sacrifice. You can't save everyone. The game is mathematically designed so that optimal play still results in deaths. Resources stay scarce, hunger drains constantly, and helping one person often means abandoning another. I've had playthroughs where I traded medicine meant for plague victims just to afford food because I was starving. Combat is short, vicious, and best avoided. Fighting drains health and resources you need elsewhere. Most players learn quickly that running is smarter than engaging, which is a reversal of typical RPG logic where combat equals progression. The plague itself is sentient, malevolent, and unkillable. You're not fighting to win. You're fighting to minimize losses. By day 12, you'll have lost people you cared about, failed quests that mattered, and probably contracted the plague yourself. The game tracks 25 bound characters, and losing any of them feels like personal failure. Difficulty modifiers exist, but the developers explicitly state the intended experience is brutal, forcing players to sacrifice content and make selfish choices. The zone doesn't care about you. You're not the chosen one. You're a military operative investigating downed helicopters in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. That's it. No prophecy, no special powers, just orders and the slim hope you'll survive long enough to complete them. What makes Call of Pripyat an anti-power fantasy is how the world operates independently. Factions wage war whether you participate or not. Mutants roam freely. Stalkers pursue their own agendas, and anomalies kill indiscriminately. I've watched entire firefights erupt between factions while hiding in a building, waiting for the carnage to end so I could loot the corpses. Survival is constant work. Guns jam and degrade, requiring maintenance. Ammunition has weight, forcing inventory decisions. Radiation, hunger, bleeding, all tracked realistically. A single high-level mutant can kill you in seconds if you're unprepared, and preparation means hoarding medkits, ammo, and anti-radiation supplies you might not find again. The A-Life system simulates a living world. NPCs have schedules. Mutants hunt in packs, and emissions, deadly radioactive storms, force everyone into shelter or instant death. Getting caught in a mission miles from safety creates genuine panic because there's no pausing, no fast travel, just frantic sprinting toward the nearest building. The game refuses to do hand-holding. Quest markers are vague. Information comes from conversations, and exploration often leads to deadly surprises. You learn the zone's rules through failure, and every death teaches something valuable. You're a vampire, which sounds like a power fantasy until you realize you're the lowest rank in a rigid political hierarchy that treats you like expendable trash. The Camarilla, Vampire Society, has rules, and breaking them means final death. You're not special. You're a mistake who barely survived your illegal siring. What makes Bloodlines subvert expectations is how much power you lack despite being undead. Political factions use you as a pawn, sending you on dangerous errands while treating you with barely concealed contempt. The Prince of LA sees you as a tool, and if you become inconvenient, you'll be eliminated without hesitation. The clan system determines your abilities and how society treats you. Plain as Ferratu, and you're so hideous that humans panic on sight, forcing stealth for every interaction. Malkavians are insane, with dialogue reflecting fractured perception that makes navigating conversations genuinely difficult. You're not choosing a playstyle, you're choosing a curse. Vampires are stronger than humans, but hunters, werewolves, and older vampires will destroy you. Resources matter because blood is currency for powers, and feeding in public violates the masquerade, bringing unwanted attention. I've had playthroughs where poor blood management left me powerless during critical fights. The writing is where it notably shines. Characters feel layered, manipulative, dangerous. Every conversation is political maneuvering where saying the wrong thing has consequences. The game trusts you to navigate complex moral situations without obvious answers.
This Lena is wacky enough for the motley crew.
You're a cop who drank himself into total amnesia, waking up in a trashed hostel room with no memory of who you are. There's a murder to solve, but the real mystery is why you destroyed yourself so completely that even your own name is gone. Disco Elysium is an anti-power fantasy because failure defines you. You can fail almost every skill check and the story continues, adapting to your incompetence. I've had playthroughs where I couldn't convince anyone of anything, couldn't solve basic puzzles, and still reach the ending. The game doesn't punish failure. It explores it, showing how a broken person navigates a broken world. Your skills are voices in your head, constantly arguing. Inland Empire whispers surreal poetry. Electrochemistry screams for drugs and sex. Logic tries, maintaining rationality, while half your brain fights the other half. Conversations become internal debates where 24 aspects of your personality war for control. Sometimes the smartest choice is listening to the dumbest voice because your character is too damaged for logic. There's no combat in the traditional sense. Conflicts are verbal, and losing arguments has consequences. You can insult the wrong person, destroy relationships, close off entire quest lines through sheer social incompetence. The game tracks reputation and how people perceive you, and once you're labeled a disaster, that reputation sticks. It subverts RPG conventions completely, since you're not saving the world. You're barely saving yourself. The murder gets solved or it doesn't, but your character's personal journey through trauma, addiction, and self-discovery is what matters. Victory doesn't feel triumphant. It feels like survival.
Cereal. There are plastic pasta packages below.